Hey everyone, Shark here, and we just got a preview of the new banners that will be releasing soon. Will these banners be any good for you? Let's talk about it. We'll first talk about the limited character banner and then move on to the weapon banner, discussing who these banners are good for, who they're not good for, and what you should consider before pulling. So on to the character banner. We've got Nilou and Albedo as the limited 5 stars, with Barbara, Xiangling, and Beidou as the 4 stars. Let's start with the 4 stars. You can already get Barbara and Xiangling for free in the game, so if you're looking for new characters, Beidou might be the only one you're missing. However, you may be at a point in the game where you're starting to consider getting constellations for Xiangling, especially as her 4th constellation is a big power spike. And if you already have Beidou, her constellations do make her a lot stronger as well, so you may be considering that. But with Barbara, it's very likely you'll end up replacing her when content becomes a lot harder that requires more DPS. Of course, there are exceptions to this, as a lot of people are using Barbara with the new Bloom reaction with Dendro, and that's made her a lot more powerful. But I still see a lot of people benching Barbara in favor of a lot more damage-focused team. And while the Healer Nun idol is very convenient, her constellations aren't game-changing, and as you get her for free already, there's not as much incentive to pull. So overall, I'd say these 4 stars are pretty good for newer players, though personally I would not pull for characters that we already get for free. I would instead focus on characters that require wishing but are also really good long term, and 4-star characters like this include Bennett, Diona, Fischl, Rosaria, Sucrose, Xingqiu, or whichever character you need to round out your specific team. Now let's move on to the 5 stars. First up is our elegant Samceru's performer Nilou. Unfortunately, this beautiful dancer is designed to be restricted to Bloom teams, and since we don't have many Dendro characters at the moment, it's going to be pretty hard to see her at her full potential. There's also the problem with the bountiful cores that she generates, because they do damage to you, and they have a much bigger AoE than the normal Bloom seeds, so you really will want a healer on that team, which is why it makes sense that Barbara is on this banner, as Nilou's team compositions limit her to both Hydro and Dendro characters, and all the self-damage means you'll really want a healer too. Now if you're on the fence about Nilou, I'd suggest waiting for her rerun, as we don't have that many good off-field Dendro characters right now, and we may have a lot more eventually when she has a rerun. And of course, if you love her because of her design, her VA, her personality, or other aspects of her characterization, then it is totally cool to pull for her for those reasons. Next, on to Albedo, the "my hair was so fluffy but then it got nerfed in-game" alchemist. Albedo is not a bad character, but he's also not amazing. He's very casual friendly, and he's extremely easy to use, as his playstyle is basically just set it and forget it. In this way, he's very similar to Fischl. However, Geo is the weakest element in terms of reaction strength, and his skill doesn't proc against shields, so that's pretty unfortunate. Overall, Albedo is a character that's nice to have, but he is far from necessary. That being said, if you want to run a full Geo team with either Ito or Noelle as your on-field DPS, Goro as your damage and defense buffer, then Albedo is the best option for the 3rd Geo character slot that you can run in that team. And he still carves out a nice place in some Hu Tao or Zhao teams alongside Zhongli for support. So similar to Nilou, unlocking Albedo's true potential does require some pretty niche team compositions, but it's not quite as restrictive. Overall, the characters on these banners are okay, but nothing mind-blowing. I'd probably rate them a 4 out of 10 in terms of value for your Primo Gems. While the 4 stars are good and quite useful, everyone gets 2 of them for free without having to use any Primo Gems. And the 5 stars are alright, but their maximum value is restricted to very specific team compositions. So the verdict here is that you should only pull on this banner because you like the characters. Otherwise, I suggest saving your Primo Gems for characters that will be more meaningful to your account progress. Now on to the weapon banner, and this is something interesting. We have 2 swords as the limited 5 stars and some pretty good 4 stars. Once again, the weapon banners are a giant trap for players designed to drain you of your primos, but this one could be especially so. The Jade Cutter is a very good sword that works well on just about anyone, But Nilou's signature weapon, the Key of Khaj-Nisut, is very niche and pretty much only good for her at the moment. If you were to pull on this banner and got the key, you might be tempted to keep pulling for a good weapon, and that severely reduces your primo gems for the future, making it a lot harder to get the characters you want. So if you are a free-to-play player or a low spender, this banner is not for you, unless you've already decided that you're going to get Nilou, as either one of these 5 stars would be good on her. Now the 4 stars here are interesting because it's basically Elemental Mastery Impact. We don't have the final stats on the new Sumeru weapons, the Xiphos Moonlight and Wandering Evenstar, but we already got the Claymore version, so we can assume this weapon series will be similar to that one. We also have the Rainslasher and the Dragonsbane as EM weapons for characters wanting to focus on elemental reaction damage. And we also have the Sacrificial Bow, which is a very nice energy recharge bow, especially for a character like Diona in a freeze team. These 4-star weapons will be good for various team compositions, but they're not good for everyone who can use them. The sword will be good for Kazuha and for Reverse Melt Kaya, as well as an on-field DPS Bennett. The Catalyst could be good for an on-field DPS Lisa in an Aggravate team, or certain Yanfei team compositions. The Rainslasher can work on Diluc or the meme EM Razor build that's actually pretty strong, and the Dragonsbane is good for Hu Tao, Xiangling, Burgeon Toma, or Reverse Melt Rosaria. And as mentioned before, the Sacrificial Bow is nice on Diona in a freeze team. However, these characters often have better options for weapons, and some even have great options that don't require spending a single primo gem. For example, the free Favonius Warbow is a great option on Diona, and the catch is amazing on Xiangling. Overall, I'd recommend this weapon banner as a big skip, and not to use any primos on it, unless you're going to get Nilou. And then it could be worth it. So what's the final verdict? I'd say unless you really love these characters and want them to have a home on your account, then I would save your primo gems and wish on other characters later. The 4 stars aren't bad, in fact they're actually quite good and very useful, but you can already get 2 out of 3 of them for free, so it doesn't seem like there's a big incentive to pull. You also don't get the full potential and therefore the full value out of the 5 stars unless you play very specific team comps, and generally I don't like it when 5-star characters are more restrictive. Because when a character is very restrictive, it typically means you're going to end up wishing for more limited 5 stars just to make that character work, and then you get in the cycle of spending a bunch of primo gems just to realize the potential of one character when a lot of other characters work at their full potential right out of the box. And of course the weapon banner is a giant trap, so I would not recommend pulling on this, again, unless you are going for Nilou and you have a guaranteed Nilou. This weapon banner, kind of a trap, big skip in my opinion. But what are your thoughts? Are you going for any of these characters? Do they seem worth it for you? I know one of our mods is extremely excited for Nilou. She saved over 220 wishes, and she's going to be wishing for both Nilou and for either the Jade Cutter or her signature weapon as soon as the banners drop. And we'll be on Discord supporting her when she does her pulls, but I'm curious what you all think, especially with Nihida the Dendro Archon and the new character Layla right around the corner. Is this banner something that you're going to skip on? Are you really tempted to pull? Are you kind of on the fence and unsure? Let me know in the comments below and maybe I can provide some guidance. Anyways everyone, thanks so much for watching, like and sub if you haven't already, and as always, stay jawsome, may order guide you friends, and I'll see you in the next one.